Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 13 of Connected by Seams podcast. The boys all back once again. G, Danny, I'm Seth. Today, we discuss a conversation with co-founder of Original Grain, Andrew Beltran. A heck of a good time to catch up with Andrew, young guy who's very successful at what he's doing. Him and his brother along in that journey together. Premier watch, wood, and steel watchmaking company, I guess is the best way to say it. But whatever way you want to categorize
watch manufacturer.
Yeah, whatever way you want to categorize it, they're killing it. They're right here in San Diego product, but from the Pacific Northwest. So it was cool to chat with him. You guys will soon enough hear that interview. Before that, quick recap of the week of our teams in the NBA playoffs. It was short-lived on the Borat bathing suit idea for Danny. Both of his teams swept out of the playoffs, the Pacers and the Nets. Thanks for showing up. G and I still in. You have the Trailblazers. G, actually a pretty good series. Against the Lakers. They're playing right now. I don't know the score.
The Lakers I just looked it up. They're comfortably ahead.
Well, I know Dame was hurt.
92-56. So
oh my goodness.
In the third, 8 minutes left in the third. I think that they'll be all right.
Portland won that first game, but looks like that one heading towards the Lakers. Houston, OKC has been a good series. I have the Rockets, so that one 2-2. The Nugs, Denver, yet to figure it out. Trailing 3-1 in that series to the Jazz, and then you have another tight one, G, with the Clippers and Mavericks. I don't know if you saw that game winner.
I did.
Yeah, by Luka last night. That was pretty sweet. But that's a good series too. So this is, I always probably would have tuned in for the playoffs, but that was the fun of it. Is that's the only time I would have really watched, So. There's been some exciting times. I did not think Portland would be down by 64 points tonight, but that's wild. So that's that. Danny, you're out. Nice knowing you, smell you. We'll try and figure out another way for you to get us to dress up and wear the Borat bathing suit. But
you'll have more.
I'll get you.
Yeah, that's the catch up there on the NBA playoffs. Now we just slide right in and navigate into the highs and lows of everyone's week. This is always one of my favorite times here. We talked about the Tesla turning into the heavy-duty man's working vehicle last week. Let's see what we can
Is that not more Orange County? I mean,
dude, I heard people reached out. They were like, oh, my gosh, that Tesla part, hilarious, blah, blah, blah. So we'll get that started.
What a terrible concept.
Oh, awful.
Highs and lows of the week. Let me think. My highs, I don't know. I got to kind of hang around the family a lot, and I was home this weekend. I've been away the past couple of weekends traveling, and so we were trying to get some stuff done in Arizona for the family, and so I got to be home this weekend and hang out with the kids. Low, man, I can't really say.
That's not probably a bad thing.
I could say not a bad thing, but I think my oldest son Ty punched me in the balls when I wasn't looking.
Ooh.
So that was kind of a low.
Did he figure out that you don't do that? Like, was that the first time?
Oh, well, yeah. Just wait till you have them. They know. They just, he likes to box with Dad, and sometimes when Dad's not ready to box, you turn around
into his attention.
Oh, that's
turn around into
awesome.
into a left hook, and you're like, whoa, okay, bud.
Southpaw.
That's an illegal shot.
Robbie would be proud.
He probably hits harder than Robbie.
Hey, shout out Robbie. Attaboy. Dude, Robbie, actually shout out Robbie. He was a great tester for us. Before we had Brandon Laird. Actually, that first episode was supposed to be Robbie. We unfortunately ran into the Wi-Fi issues and all that stuff, but that was cool. We need to get a fighter on here. We need to get a boxer on here. Those guys it's a different breed, man. That would be cool. But hey, if you got to struggle to find a low, man, that's not a bad thing. Like G said, you'll take that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll take it.
All right.
I'll listen to G's.
Yeah, no. So, you know what's funny is my face looks like this would be a low, but it's actually a high. For those of you that are those of you that are listening and not seeing on YouTube,
all episodes featured on YouTube. By the way, go check this out. Garrett's got a sweet raspberry that'll soon turn into beef jerky. It's there on the beak of his schnoz.
Right at the bridge of my nose, and my lips are pretty jacked up. So I went on a ride this weekend down in San Juan, and it was a trail that I'd heard lots about, and it was actually a lot of fun, and that's why it's a high. But the main reason it's a high is I'll get to that, I guess. But so I took a little digger, got a little bunny hop. Little seat bounced over a cliff, going dead. Everybody, you could also see this on my Instagram. I'll be posting this shortly. I made a little clip from our GoPro. What is Gmoney06? Get at me. But I'll put it out there so you guys can see that. And I got seat bounced right over the ledge and freaking straight up face planted into the side of the freaking mountain. No arms, just caught it straight with my face. Actually, the crown of my head or this frontal area. Shout out to Specialized Helmets too, because they fucking saved me. But
we could use a sponsor,
dude. My head is freaking bruised. My freaking nose is broken. My lips are gashed open, and my neck is just finally able to. I got a little mobility, so it's taken a couple days to get there. Oh, shout out to Power Dot. I've been using my Power Dot, freaking trying to get my neck loosened up and
get them all out there.
Shout out to Ice Bath.
Yeah. The reason it's my high is because of that damn video. Like, if I didn't have that on video, I would have been so fucking pissed. And so we got done with the ride, and we were sitting there, and I was like, all right, I'm looking at my GoPro, and I started busting up laughing because the video is just like, you could see it just rolling, and all of a sudden it's just like, whoop, freaking right over. And you could kind of see like my shadow. So all you see is like my body in the shadow. Just, it's good. But, so that's my high.
This ab workout might be my high for next week. Jesus.
On the flip side, though, my low is that same day. I came home, and for those of you that don't know me or don't know that I'm a big dog guy, my oldest dog, Bolly, I had to take her to the emergency room. She had some issues, and she has pancreatitis, and so it was the first time we had to like leave her overnight and freaking at the ER and go through that whole thing. No money is freaking a problem when it comes to taking care of my dogs, and I don't care. And she's home now and on the mend, but that shit's scary, man. Taking my dog to the emergency room, and dude, while we were picking her up too, there was this family that freaking came flying up and to the front of the ER, and the guy jumped out of the back seat, and they had probably 100-pound a big chocolate lab or something, and it had stopped breathing and freaking rushing in there. And I was just thankful that wasn't something that I've ever had to deal with. But that's definitely my low. My low is the fact that she's sick, and we got to watch out what we do. So,
hey, she's home though, so that's that's gotta make you feel a little bit better, right?
No, it totally does. It totally does.
Yeah.
She's she's doing her thing. She's a little sluggish and just freaking little still kind of, I don't know, towards the end of today though, she started getting a little more active and herself.
Who the hell isn't in this damn heat though, right?
Oh no, that's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was severely dehydrated, and so that was, I don't know, it was no good. But she's all home, and so that was my low, and I just killed the mood. So
no.
That's just that's life. That's part of everything.
Yeah.
And animals nowadays are like, your kids and stuff. So,
and we want our listeners to freaking know who we are. You got 3 pups, one's sick. Like,
oh, dude, the other 2.
Send good wishes to Bali. God damn it.
The other 2, when I came home without her, they were like kind of, like,
thought she was on a sleepover.
And Lucy thought I got rid of her. Like, Lucy wouldn't come near me. I like would bend over like to pet her or anything, and she would freaking like make a wide berth all the way around me, like want nothing to do with me. And it took a minute, and then when we brought her home, she was back to normal. But yeah, it was sad.
It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. No, I'll just kind of piggyback. That feeds right into my kind of downer. When Pops told me that, I was like, whoa, what? That sucks. So when I reached out, that was gnarly. So happy to hear that's all right. Other low was, again, just this damn heat and working. I don't like, why do we even have to, I'm so over showing up to work, dude. When it's this hot, but then I'm like, actually my house is kind of just as hot. So I guess I can make a little extra dinero and call it a day. But that's kind of my low. It's just been like dealing with a little bit on edge of dealing with people's shit on top of the heat.
Putting me on the edge.
Yeah, man. So that's my low. I'd say my high though is our brother Garrett and I's brother Ryan. Shout out Ryan, like we said, a listener of this show. He came down, called me randomly Sunday. Hey, what's up? What are you doing today? And he cruised down, and that was a heck of a time. So that was probably my high. Just being able to see him. Don't always get to go home and see all these guys. So that was pretty cool to see that. And that was about it. Other than that, pretty mellow. Just another awesome week slanging some wangs and having a good time down here at the beach. So that was it.
Yeah.
But that's it. Shoot, we got the NBA playoffs out of the way. We can navigate it through the highs and lows. I think it's time to send it to the interview with Andrew Beltran of Original Grain. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Connected by Seams podcast. Today we are joined by the co-founder of Original Grain, Andrew Beltran. Andrew, so stoked to have you on, man. How you doing?
Dude, great. Thanks for having me. We were just saying it was a quick turnaround, and really happy we were able to connect through mutual friends. And I'm always just really excited for these conversations. So thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, our boy Andrew Volk, being able to kind of set this up. I know we both share the mutual love for Volk. He's the man. But yeah, we were talking just, last week trying to set this whole thing up. I know you were heading out of town. If you mentioned, just a quick turnaround, what were you up to?
Yeah, we actually were just releasing a new watch. So we're up in Big Bear, just kind of grabbing some inspiration and just shooting content. We're actually doing a refresh to our chronograph design. So we figured not a better place to go than in nature. Kind of that's really where the brand started, was in the Pacific Northwest. So whenever we can get out and get away and capture some of that inspiration. So it was a nice little weekend. I wouldn't say it was camping, but definitely we were glamping, at a nice little cabin, me and my bro and just a photographer. And we're pretty scrappy, we've been able to scale, but we still keep it pretty rooted with, my brother and I, and able to just do what we love and keep it humble and fun,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
that's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about that, the roots and the nature part of it. You grew up in the Pacific Northwest. For anyone that maybe doesn't know, Original Grain, as mentioned, Andrew and his brother Ryan, all premier maker of all natural wood stainless steel watches, started in 2012. Before all that, though, Oregon specifically, kind of growing up, nature, as you just mentioned, such a big part of your life. Talk about the experiences growing up in the Pacific Northwest up there.
Yeah, small town roots. I grew up in a small town just outside of Eugene, Oregon, which is where the campus is. And, you know, it's just, again, just back to being inspired by nature and craftsmanship and kind of just those small things that like, even like your dad will teach you, you know, never leave something behind. You wouldn't put your name on. Just small things, you know, like very humble beginnings. You know, I never thought we would be in the watch business. But, you know, when we get into watches because we're really about craftsmanship and trade and being able to create something that was inspiring and reclaimed and sustainability, and it really taps into our heritage. So that's why we're able to transition so effectively, because we're just drawing from what we know best, you know, and able to apply to watches, of course. But yeah, that's really where the brand was started in the Northwest, and now we're here in San Diego, you know, sunny San Diego for the time being. Very
not a bad place either, I guess.
Totally, very blessed for that, you know, and very, very, very happy to be here. But we, again, like I said, we're up in Big Bear. You know, we're still finding ways to kind of get re-inspired. And Ryan, my brother, and I were always heading back up to the Northwest for inspo before we launch a new watch, and just kind of game plan. And we definitely make that part of our yearly routine. So that's kind of where it comes from.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, you talk about Ryan, your older brother. After high school, you guys, I'm not sure exactly what Ryan may have done, but you enroll in the Marine Corps, which actually becomes a huge part of this whole journey for you guys. But what did you spend your time doing while in the Marines?
Yeah, so I enlisted in the military. I was in the Marine Corps as a field radio operator, so I was a communicator on the ground. So I did that for 4 years, and my brother, he's 2 years older than me. So about my second year in the Marines, I had just deployed, and he actually went to China to teach English. But that was kind of like the scapegoat to get to China, because he had to have the paperwork, you know, like, all right, we're going to go teach English. But really, he was just like always wanted to start a brand and develop products. So he knew that was kind of the hub and the hot spot. So he moves to China, and again, like I had said, my second year on deployed, and when I'm coming back, we had stopped in Hong Kong for like 2 days, kind of R&R, just quick rest recovery. And I called him like, hey, bro, I'm in Hong Kong. I don't really know where you're. I don't know where the hell he's at. He's in China somewhere. It's a big place.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can get there in like a couple hours. I'll be there. I was like, okay, sure. So we're at the bar. Like, we kind of meet up like real quick, and he actually had brung a watch sample, and it incorporated wood. And he had, you know, I just remember this, like he kind of slid, like we were having a beer and he slid it over to me. And as soon as I opened this watch box, it was just like, whoa, it's just like reminded me of home, reminded of so many memories we had shared together as kids, kind of growing up. It's like, wow, this is kind of like something that really touches my heart. It's kind of a nostalgic moment. And it was like, wow, what are the stories that we could tell, you know, through natural materials? And it wasn't really being done, you know, it still isn't necessarily being done that well. And we kind of ran with that. So ran with the idea. We had no idea how we were going to do it at this point. But we got to the drawing board, you know, and when he went back to the mainland, you know, I finished the deployment, and we met up that summer, and he was like, I think I have a supplier, and we could potentially do a couple hundred units, see what happens. And so, like, very arrogantly, we make these couple hundred watches. You know, they were just exotic. At this point, it was just exotic hardwood. We hadn't really started the reclaim process. But, you know, we made a couple hundred units. I was just slinging them out of the backpack there on Camp Pendleton, just kind of one-off watches. And then we were like, how are we going to really scale this brand? How are we going to sell it online? Luckily, we kind of came on the surge of Kickstarter. Kickstarter had just launched. And we were very, very lucky to get on board with them right as they had launched. And we launched our first campaign, and we had done 2 campaigns. Our first campaign, we raised around $390,000 in our first 30 days. And then we followed it up with a second campaign. And that's when we started including, you know, reclaimed materials such as whiskey barrels, things of that nature. And we just took off. You know,
I read. So was that a successful Kickstarter, or?
Yeah.
390,000.
Wasn't it only? It was originally like a $10,000 goal, right? Like that's what you guys were hoping to reach or something. And that's kind of what I was reading about.
Kind of part of the game, you know. Kickstarter's got a little game you have to play. Like you want to make sure that you hit a goal so that you can retain the money. Because if you don't, sometimes people just set the goal. You know, between us, we were like, hey, if we can get to 30,000, like that, we're gonna be, you know, bumping fists and really stoked. And I remember that first night, he had went to sleep because, you know, he's still in China at the time. Nighttime, he sets the campaign live and goes to sleep. And I just watched the campaign just take off. And we had done like 24,000 in the first 24 hours. And I was calling him like, dude, wake up. Like, I don't know what to do. You know, like, what the fuck? And so we took off though, you know, first day, and we, you know, reached our goal obviously. And then, you know, so much development after that to make sure the watches came on time, and like so many lessons learned along the way just to make sure that our production came out right. And then again, we did the second campaign, followed it up. We did around 400 plus, you know, just to make sure. But that took a little more strategy the second time around. And all of a sudden we started forming a business model, you know, how we're going to drive traffic and develop watches. And it kind of all started right there. That's what it's for though, you know.
Oh, that's so cool. Were you always a watch guy? Like, did you always have sick shit? Like, or was this just like you saw it and like something was like, whoa, that's like home. You know what I mean? Like, that's awesome.
To be honest, I had one watch when I was a kid. It was my grandfather's watch. I had it throughout the military, but I was never like into really gear or fashion. Ryan was always into gear and like shoes and brands. Like, he really respects and dives deep into that stuff. You know, for me, it was just that natural calling of wood and like that creative story that we could tell, you know, through real craftsmanship and ingenuity. Like, and that's where we're starting to step into, you know, the brand here, almost 8 years old. We're starting to see like the fruits of the labor and like, wow, this is what the vision kind of from the beginning. You know, it took a long time to get there though, because this industry wasn't really evolved at all. So we've had to buy a lot of machinery, you know, take it out there, kind of show how to use this material. So there's been a lot of trial and error along the way, but it's been fun.
Yeah, but I was thinking like, how do you get to thinking like, you know, we're gonna make watches out of wood? I hadn't really seen too many. I remember the first time I saw you guys, and I was like, man, a wood watch. I wonder what was the thought process behind a wood watch? You know, you got all these metals. What I mean, outside of nature and you guys being attached to that and being out there, like, what's the truth behind like the wood? Why wood?
It's just there's so many stories, you know, ingrained in the wood. You know, they can tell so many stories, whether it's how long the wood has been used, the kind of wear and tear, the weather it's been through. And we just knew that the wood could tell more of a story than any type of steel. You know, the natural materials, there's just something so unique about it. And, you know, the end goal was like, wow, we're going to start at some point, you know, this is 7 years ago, almost 8, we're going to reclaim materials. You know, we're going to take what we do now with the baseball bats and what we do with, you know, with Wrigley Field, with the stadium chairs and, you know, Yankee.
Oh, what? Are you kidding me? Like, that's like, yeah, that I knew that when I saw that on social, that whole thing was so rad.
How did you get your paws on that?
That was a crazy story. You'll love this. Actually, we had signed a deal with the Cubs, not really knowing how we were going to get the wood because they didn't have any. But we knew some real random contractors in Chicago that had been hoarding wood, and they would not sell it to us, dude. For the longest time, we're like, we have this contract. We have to get this wood. So it took a few flights out to Chicago. This one contractor had this big, long bench because it doesn't take a ton of wood. You know, I don't know if you can see, you know, this watch specifically. I have one of them. It's really, this one is
like this one.
Yeah. See on the back. Yeah. So it take a ton of wood. So we were able to secure just 2 long benches from this contractor. But it was this burly dude, and I didn't think we were going to get it from him. We'd already signed this big contract with Chicago. We were going to be the official timekeeper of Wrigley Field. So yeah, you just honestly, all the wood sourcing, it's really interesting. We just released a pilot collection. We're actually reclaiming old planes, you know, so we were up.
Cool.
That's sick.
Yeah, we were up in Pasadena, you know, just meeting with normal people. You know, obviously we have to find a nice paper trail. We want to make sure it's authentic material, but, you know, we're just be able to, you know, make good relationships like we're doing today. And people love our product. You know, they know that we're not just going to turn something that's like, you know, waste. You know, these are the watches are meant to live on and live and tell stories and be passed on generations, you know, so they know what we're trying to do, and they kind of all of a sudden they kind of hear what we're about and they want to get involved and be involved with the process. So,
well, if you guys need some broken wood bats, I'm sure I got sawed off a couple times. I got a couple of them in the garage. You can come on over. You can have them for free.
Oh shit, that is funny. Well, that was one of the cool quotes that I saw was like, create timepieces that both keep time and tell time. You know, no two watches are the same because of that reason, because each piece of wood is different. I thought that was so cool. And when I was going to maybe save this for later, but we're here, also should throw out for every watch sold, you guys and its partner, I think it's Trees for the Future, if I have it right here. You commit to planting a tree in Senegal. And in 2019, you guys just celebrated planting your 500,000th tree. That is unbelievable, awesome. Man. That is so freaking rad. When I was
reading. Is rad. Yeah.
So congratulations to you on that for sure.
Brother, yeah, it's definitely a goal since the beginning. Always going to give back. We do a military give back. We've worked with a lot of homeless outreaches here in San Diego as well. But the tree planting initiative always been part of the brand. Every watch sold is planting trees. You know, we started with Senegal. Actually, up till last year, we had planted our 500,000th tree, and we had just actually moved our tree planting here in California with our new kind of tree planting partner. It's One Tree Planted. So we're planting trees now here in California, helping with kind of the wildfires that have taken place over the last few years. You know, so we'd bring it home. You know, and we planted in Oregon for the first half of the year. Now we're planting in California. So we're just kind of like starting to tend to certain fires that have caused some devastation here. So always want to give back, whether it's the military. And what we're starting to do is cool is like with our military collection, it's reclaimed from old ammunition crate wood. You know, we'll give back to a charity called Active Valor, and they're here in San Diego. It's a Navy SEAL, Perrier, and they give back to Gold Star children. So we're able to kudo like the watch to the charity, you know, and that's where we're starting to take the brand as well and find good stories and relationships that way as well.
Well, if the product doesn't speak for itself, like that right there is just something else that gravitates you, you know what I mean, towards your guys's. Everything about it's just so positive, you know what I mean? Whether you're on your website, whether it's an interview with you and your brother, like it's so freaking cool, man. But kind of going back, kind of how everything got started, that time frame from seeing your brother in Hong Kong, returning from deployment, when you developed from then to like when you developed and released like your first watch as a company. I think you might have said 2 years, but kind of what was that time frame like?
Yeah, it took us to release the watches after our first campaign. It was about 8 months. You know, we were hoping to get it done in 6. We had a few hang-ups, you know, quality control situations, so we just pushed it back. We wanted to make sure product was good. So within 8 months, you know, we're able to develop a brand new silhouette and, you know, give it to our customers. That's pretty standard, you know, even now. Like when we're designing new watches, it takes about 8 months to get a watch perfected, you know, there is a lot of steel moldings and wood cutting and movements and whatnot. So that we actually were pretty on point at the beginning. We thought it was taking way too long. We're like all pissed, you know, we think we're getting robbed, all these things, you know. So about 8 month turnaround, and then we were able to fire up that second campaign and get the second one done. And then from there, we just continue to develop new watches every year. And it took us, I think it was our 3rd year in business that's when we started doing the sports licensing. And that's when we're starting to tell those stories with the Cubs and the Yankees. And all of a sudden we're on this national kind of platform. We didn't really, like, what are we doing? You know, like, how are we doing all this sports licensing? You know, and it's something we definitely learned along the way. Like, that's definitely cool to talk about. You know, it's like great to be like, oh, Cubs and Yankees, like, but I do like anybody, if there's business folks like kind of thinking or listening in on this, it's like, you know, that's like shiny object syndrome. You know, you're chasing these like big names, but it is fairly expensive to get involved. There's like, and all of a sudden I'm having my team, you know, we're having to design all these watches. And it's like the payout isn't as much, you know, but we are using that to hook a lot of new fans and new audience. Like they're like, oh, I love the Nationals, I love the Cubs. And then they'll see our whiskey barrel or they'll see our exotic roast, and they'll buy that. So, you know, that's just something that we had to learn along the way. It's like, how much time and effort are we putting into the sports licensing opposed to building our own original grain brand that like stands for product and innovation and things like that. So we had to learn some of those things, like just kind of dial it in and tighten the reins a little bit, because everyone gets excited. You know,
For sure.
like,
I know that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
My previous job, you pay for the recognition, but not the recognition, not so much the return on the, product and everything right away. It's just getting that brand out there. It's tough, but you got to do it sometimes. So.
Dude, I think we paid our dues in the right way. You know, we definitely got our name out there amongst certain fans, and we did the NBA thing, and we were bouncing around all over. Now we kind of honed it in to do seasonal launches. Once the MLB starts, and then whoever's crowned champion, we always make it a watch for the champion. You know, we did it for the Nationals last year, and then the Red Sox the year before, things like that. The Cubs, obviously, as well. So. But then we just do that seasonal, before we were kind of trying to have that all year round. And now we're on a better production schedule. So we're timing things a little bit better and getting it out at the right time, It's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, shoot, how were you guys able to kind of first market those watches? I mean, you guys both younger, you know what I mean? Younger dudes. I don't know, financials, stay of a bill, you know what I mean? Like, how do you guys go through that kind of process? Nothing set in stone, you know what I mean? Like, how did that kind of?
You said backpack, but
yeah,
like were you straight like slanging that? Like, yeah,
like
definitely was. I mean, that was before kind of that first Kickstarter campaign. We didn't know how to advertise. We didn't know how to market anything online.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that second Kickstarter campaign really formed our business model, because being competitive dudes, we couldn't let that second campaign do worse than the first campaign. It's just in our nature. I'm sure all you guys are the same. It's like, we got to beat it or it's a failure, even though it wasn't.
Right.
And we had only done, I remember we had launched and we only raised like 150,000 or something. And, we were just like, we can't end here, So we really got on board with learning how to drive traffic. And that was just through essentially social media, whether it be Facebook or Instagram. We had some Twitter feeds going as well, but just kind of paid placement and sponsored advertising. All of a sudden, we were getting fairly good click through and conversion. And that's the name of the game. That's the game we play in online. I think every online company does. So we were really able to build our business model based off just like online traffic and marketing and advertising and creating stuff that's unique in the feed. And we've always done content in-house. It's just something we always have owned. We've had some of the best photographers, I think, in San Diego, originally with Jose Coley. He was a great art director, creative director. And now we have a guy named TJ Kolsnick, and they're just great dudes. They've worked on our team for years, and they're just, when you're on the feed, they just create these thumb-stopping ads, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah. Hey,
you can say whatever you want.
Let it go. Fuck
yeah.
it.
And then it's just, if you click, we're going to follow you across the internet. We're going to be all over your feed. We're going to be in your email, things like that. So we just had to learn the landscape of online advertising. And I didn't go to school, I was fresh out of the Marine Corps. All I knew was how to shoot and dial in coordinates, So we were just like, let's figure this out. But we've had some really great mentors, especially here in San Diego, people that have helped us, even from, the Nixon brand. That's what's cool about SD, and I had to learn that. I didn't grow up in action sports culture. It was more just like, I grew up in a farm town shit. So it was like really nice to get people that believe in the product and believe in us, and just to come in and consult and just kind of share ideas and like, oh, okay. And we were open book, at that point, now I'm a little different. I had no ego, it's like, cause I had so much to learn, and then as you get a little older and then you kind of like turn a blind eye, which I should be better at. But like, I was an open book at that time, I was like learning all this new stuff, and people were very gracious to us. They knew what we were trying to do was authentic,
Well, you had to go through some real ups and downs, having coming fresh out of the Marine Corps, not being in advertising, not being in the watch industry. I mean, never been a part of that industry. And so how do you go from being 18 years old, 4 years of the Marine Corps, bam, here you go, figure it out?
No, I mean, I definitely think about this a lot, even to this day. I'm so blessed that I was able to transition into something that kept my mental state just to where I could just focus on one thing. I think a lot of my brothers that got out, they're just like, what next? I was very fortunate just because Marines, a lot of military, just crazy work ethic. So I was able to just dive in, let alone I was in a pretty bad accident as well, like to where I could barely walk. My left shoulder was done. I couldn't really move. So there was about a year and a half where I was just Ryan eventually moved back from China after I got my accident. And he was just right there with me, and we were just like, let's just grind, let's focus on his business. But yeah, like a lot of crazy work-life balance, things that I'm still perfecting, things that's like, it doesn't seem right. Things like you don't feel like you fit in, like culture shock, like, things like that. But, I've always been, open-hearted, and have had really great people around me. That's when I met Andrew Volk, the guy who set up this. He kind of understood the industry. He was doing warehousing for us, but he was like, you should check this out. Just like San Diego is a loving place, so.
And it's a melting pot too. You get, like you brought up the culture, you get a little bit of everything here, which is so cool.
Very true. Very true. So.
Well, I mean, shoot, the watchmaking process alone, I feel like is rather difficult, let alone you guys doing what you're trying to do and all natural, like you said, and being fresh. You don't want to be taken advantage of, and luckily, thankfully, you guys have found and crossed paths with the right people. But how difficult is it to find those suppliers willing to work with you guys and make this authentic and practice what you preach? And it really is all natural. It really is different pieces of wood. Like, how is that process? How difficult is that, trying to find suppliers to do that with you?
For sure. We went through so many different suppliers, especially at the beginning, people that were trying to hose us, things like that, like knockoff materials, things that weren't authentic. So we had to nix that a few different suppliers along the way. Luckily Ryan has such good background. He was in China for 4 years. We ended up getting 2 pretty high level, I'd say executive assistant / people that are pretty well versed in manufacturing that are Chinese. So I've always had, someone on the ground there in China. And then, before COVID, we were out there 6 times a year, if not more, so we were always out every quarter, and then we would come in between, and we'd be out there for a few weeks at a time. Anybody who wants to develop a product at scale, it's just so important to have, those real conversations with the supplier, real expectations of timelines and development, especially with the wood. It's always been a challenge. Like, we're trying to, like, our new pilot collection, if anybody checks that out, you'll see these small details of wood. It's like, it's a touch of wood. It's not these big wood bulky watches. Like the one you have is like 1.0, you know what I mean? That barrel, the watch you were wearing.
Dude, so long. This is from Volk. Like, this legit is from when you guys were just kind of starting, and like, he was like, dude, this is freaking sick. Check them out, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have this one and one other one, and I've had them. Like, that just shows the durability. That was shit. I wish he could tell me how many years, but I mean, I don't know, 12, 13, probably around when you guys started, right?
Yep. So, just working with suppliers, it's just so important, just being there not 24/7, but we have people on the ground at all times, every time we place an order through the end, have a big QC team as well. It's just constantly staying on our suppliers, because we've had a few runs where, especially in the watch industry, things like this, like it'll ruin you. If you have a faulty watch where the stem is coming out, which we've had, things like that. It's just like, that's no bueno. It's not going to fly, and reviews and things like it. Just as, social media and advertising has supported our growth, it can, the awareness is there.
Crush it too.
In a blink of an eye too.
Yeah, those reviews are just as evident. So we just had to stay on it, and make sure that we're not cutting corners. We've had those conversations like, there's those small things. You can save money here, but it's not worth it, and the margins and this and that. Like, let's just develop a really rad product and create customers that want to come back for the newest, the latest and greatest. And that's the type of customer we're trying to acquire,
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you mentioned if any business people are listening, or young entrepreneurs like you and your brother, you went through the learning curves, the early struggles. You've kind of mentioned some stuff you've had to learn along the way, but talk about the struggles, man. Like, you guys obviously are killing it now, but it wasn't easy. There had to have been early struggles, dealing with the different manufacturers, learning this shit on your own. You know what I mean? Knowing what you know now, how can you maybe share some of that information and help someone maybe prevent some of those issues or something moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack, and I still, even though we've grown, we're still fight these new battles, and when you're in entrepreneurship and business, it's like, it's not always the same, but they're always there, so I'm trying to perfect this answer a little bit because I've heard this a few times. I really think it's like just kind of that never quit mentality. You know, it's never over until you quit. You know, I'm actually working on a new company right now, and I'm forced to remind myself of like, this will go as far as I'm willing to like stretch for it. You know, and it's never over until you quit. So I always remind myself of that. Like, and there's always going to be new battles and things that make you uncomfortable. You know, lean into it, because that thing that's making you uncomfortable will probably make your business more profitable. You know, and like accounting and fucking, you know, operations and inventory management, things that are like on spreadsheets, and my eyes are bleeding. You know, and it's like, but you know, sure enough, I swear the universe works with you, and like things that like are totally like make you nauseous within 3 months, like that's what's going to save your company. Not save it, potentially like really be a stronghold of your
keeps it upright though.
Yeah, man. So I've always had to like, I've learned that though, like lean into things that make you uncomfortable, because it probably means you need some brushing up on a lot of that stuff, you know, and you never, like I said, you're never out of the fight until you quit, you know, and so even when it's going bad. So I stay in the fight.
I mean, it's like, I mean, the way you're saying it sounds like you've had to learn to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
True.
You've had to learn to embrace being uncomfortable in order for your growth. Because if you get comfortable, there's no growth in being comfortable, and that's kind of a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure we can all relate to that. The second you get comfortable, where's your growth go?
You're dead. Yeah. It's true.
Everything sounds so cliche, you know, like how you're saying, trying to perfect an answer, this and that. But honestly, like you talk to many successful people and they give it to you as simple as it is. Like, do your fucking job. You know what I mean? Work hard.
The reason why it's a cliche,
yeah, like it's not
true.
Like, so it's kind of funny to hear that, and it's the same thing of being comfortable in the uncomfortable. And you guys have definitely found a way to weave your way through that process, and it's been pretty cool and exciting to see it. So it's awesome.
What's your new venture you mentioned?
Of course. No, yeah, this kind of leans into kind of that work-life balance, you know, and it's really interesting going back to kind of the accident that I was involved in. I was in a ton of pain. I was let's just open up, you know, I went to a lot of American doctors, you know, and I was getting told very similar techniques for recovery, and it was prescription drugs and like trying to rehab and doing this shit that was just not going to work for me long-term, you know, and I had struggled with that for 5 years, you know, from the time I launched Original Grain till about 2018. And I was just, you know, same old repetition of the same doctors and the same old thing. Like, and I had enough, you know, and I was like, well, what can I do? And it was just about maintaining, you know, it started with just finding better balance in my life, not like just like working and grinding and like just all day, every day, and like really finding balance in my mental state, but also it became more about my diet. And when I had switched my diet from just, again, like traditional American diet and I went to plant-based, and I'm not like this big vegan, like
advocate, like, yeah.
Really not that dude. I grew up in a farm town, like a dairy farm, like no, but
You're from the Pacific Northwest, you said, though, so I don't know.
Anyway, so I got into it, you know, I got into plant-based diet, you know, and that's what really changed. Honestly, I would say it, you know, really changed my life from just like the pain that I was in and mental frame. You know, I was having suffering from a lot of PTSD, depression, a lot of night terror, a lot of like crazy amounts of pain in my body, my shoulder, my neck, all these accidents I've been in. And when I switched my diet, you know, everything had slowly started to go away. And then when I started switching my mental frame to like more meditation and life balance, you know, so I started a brand actually in March, as soon as COVID hit, of course. Like, here we go again. It's called Enzo Superfoods. So it's essentially a superfoods company. And it's just to help people find more balance in their life, as well as get the daily kind of nutritional benefits that we're just missing in our diet, you know, and, you know, a lot of additional information, you know, whether it be ways to meditate, you know, things to do, hobbies, you know, just balance, life and balance is kind of our slogan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you, man. Especially like you're starting, how you said it got started and you just figuring that out. It's amazing how food and what you put into your body. We've had a couple guests on where we've talked about that before, how that affects your life in such a bigger way than people imagine. So that's awesome.
Sure. Thank you, man. Yeah. So it's been a new journey. It's allowed me to get scrappy again too. Like, we don't have a big budget. We don't have a big staff. You know, everything we do has to make return, you know, so it's like, I'm kind of diving back into like how to really like start a brand again. And it's been challenging, but like a lot of those things that I'm researching, I'm bringing back into Original Grain. So I'm just getting scrappy again. I've been liking myself.
It refreshes your brain. Gets your mind going a little bit again. That's cool.
It does. Not to sleep at the wheel anymore. You know, it's like, I got a big staff here, you know, I got a big staff doing all the stuff and social media, and we're just kind of game planning and plotting. And now like getting back into the weeds, and then I'll be able to pass that information to my social media manager or marketing director, things like that. So
pause the first half of the interview there with Andrew Beltran of Original Grain, him and his brother. Shout out to him as well, who are the co-founders here of Original Grain. But pretty awesome stuff to see them kind of come from nothing. Andrew having the military background, not sure what was going to happen next. Took that next step, saw something, was like, holy cow, it attracted him, ran with it, and shoot, here they are, one of the largest watch companies nationwide here. So pretty cool to see that, and his personality was awesome to gravitate towards as well.
Yeah, good dude. I mean, I enjoyed talking to him and listening to his story of kind of where I guess the inspiration came from and where the connection came from. As he talks about it through being outdoors and through life. And, you know, it's really cool as you get into the interview and you listen to him about where the material comes from and telling the story of everything. Like, I really enjoy myself purchasing something or going somewhere and being able to hear or listen to a story that is with something. You know, when you it's purchase authentic. Something, there's there's authenticity to it. And I feel like he and his brother are really trying to do that. They're trying to bring something very real to you, you know, with that has a story to it. So you know, timepieces are that thing. You bring them, you wear them to a bar, and someone goes, "Oh, what's that about?" And you have a conversation piece.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what he's created.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I to both your guys' points there. He's got a very pure personality and type of go get personality, you know. And how about the fact that his brother shows up to meet him in freaking overseas and like, hey, got these watches.
Just slid it over to him like, yo, check this out. Like, what do you think? Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
That's a bizarre, cool, fun story on a beginning to a multi, you know. I mean,
and they both sound like
dollar company. I didn't ask that, but
it's got to.
They're pretty large based on the numbers.
Yes,
but no, just it's a cool start to a freaking sick ass product. Like,
and they both were able to kind of find their niche. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we'll put Ryan. Sorry, I wanted to give him a shout out and didn't even say his freaking name. Ryan is the brother of Andrew. But even to just like Andrew understanding like, hey, you're kind of the fashion guy, like you handle this, like I kind of have my, you know what I mean? Like they were both kind of able to understand that like away. And I think that's gotta be a game changer. It's like Thomas and his sister when we had Fresh and Lean on here, you know what I mean? Like if you can establish that early, it's on you to kind of figure it out from there in that area. And shoot, Andrew is thriving, and you wouldn't really even know it. Just his personality was so mellow. He was so cool to talk to, and you can tell why they're successful business wise.
Well, I mean, what I liked about Andrew is when he talked was like it seemed like this real genuine inner peace or something that he had found or created. It was like
very namaste.
Yeah.
But not in like a weird way, but not in not
at all. Not in like a hippie way, nothing like that. He found something real that gave himself his life, that he could look at everything a different way, and he uses that to then go out and find materials that he tells a story so everybody is a piece of what he does.
Yep.
Yep.
So rad.
No,
so rad.
I think it's cool. I mean, with the freaking Wrigley seats and the planes that he's talking about, like, talk about just, you know, making a connection with folks. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. He gets into so much more and so much more of how they give back just in general as a company, which we'll get into a lot more. But we'll send it to the back half of the interview with co-founder of Original Grain, Andrew Beltran. All right, so piggybacking off of, you know, you talking about beginning new ventures, what about back to Original Grain? What's current day like for you guys? What's upcoming? What's kind of the hot stuff right now for you guys at Original Grain?
Of course, gearing up for a really big, Q4 holiday season. A lot of new watch releases. We just released a few new watches this last week. We released a pilot collection reclaimed from the old, 1920 planes. We have actually kind of a new we're refreshing our old chronograph. We have a new Sport Minimalist, which is I think this Sport Minimalist is going to come out in September. I think it's going to win real design awards. We brought in a designer. He worked at Movado for about, say 7 or 8 years. And we brought him in full time last year. So we're just starting to see the fruits of his labor. Again, it takes about 8 months for a watch to kind of develop and get to market. So he's bringing some really just steeds to our watches. He really understands not only the wood story, but just how to create those fine details of wood and not really be this wood watch company. We want to be the fine details of wood, kind of luxury. We think luxury cars when we talk about design. It's just there in the dashboard. It's there. It's not taking over the whole watch. It's just that fine detail and elements of wood. So
it complements it very well.
Exactly. So that the pilot collection is one of his first designs. So that's kind of gives you a halo of what he's going to come with. We have a new women's collection coming out. So just kind of gearing up for holiday there. We have a few collaborations we're in the works with right now. I can't say them until they release.
Yeah. This has been known for some groundbreaking shit to come out here on this podcast. So it would not be the first time that we're just breaking the news over here.
You know what's funny is that sounds like you're joking, but it's actually. But
we had fresh and lean on here. It was a organic food delivery service, and they partnered with the Ducks, and they're the Anaheim Ducks official meal sponsor, and the guy just dropped it on here before they even
a week before.
Yeah. And a couple other things, but that's awesome. Well, shoot, that's a perfect transition. I wanted to kind of ask that. You guys have done so much with the limited edition collection for the Yankees, the Cubs, the official timekeeper, all that stuff. Has there been a favorite collab minus the ones maybe you just did, if they're in that, but has there been a favorite collab that you've done?
I think so, actually. When I immediately go to the collaboration we did with Jim Beam.
Oh, yeah.
The reason is not just because of the whiskey. Well, it kind of does Jim Beam, that family, we went to Kentucky and they just embraced us. Some of these collabs are just paperwork, fine, go on, just go sell the watches. They really brung us in as part of the family. I still talk to some of those guys from, they're just lineage of Jim Beam. They're royalty out in Kentucky,
Wow.
So and they just brought us in we were part of their family, So that was just such a fun experience. Those collections, we've done 2 Jim Beam collections. It was 2016 and 2017, and those always sold really well. Gentlemen's kits, that's what really started inspiring a lot of our packaging too. Is wow, there's so much real estate with packaging, not just within the watch. We started sending watches out that had whiskey glasses or a flask and a funnel, and really starting to tell unique stories along with the packaging. And that's it kind of was that next step in evolution for the brand. So that Jim Beam collab has always been good, and we have bottles for life, so we're good.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just a little perk in there.
Some people snub at the Jim Beam, oh, that's not good whiskey, but I personally think it's all right.
I don't think I've had any bad free whiskey, that's for sure. Can't go wrong there. That's awesome.
I got a question about the wood stuff. So when you guys are looking at something like you say with Jim Beam, using barrels or whatever, are you looking, when you go into those collabs or you go like to the benches, are you looking for a specific like style, look, grain, density? Like what's some of the stuff that goes into that process of choosing the piece of wood you're going to use?
Definitely. It's actually become more and more like complicated because at scale, like it's the consistency factor. You know, it's like, whoa, we can't just make 5,000 of this limited wood because it's going to come out very unique and different. So like consistency is one of the biggest things that we're like, especially when we're working with partners, like we just need to be consistent. So like we have to go out there and we have to hand select it. You know, density is definitely kind of like something we have to think about, you know, but with some of the new designs, like we're able to, I don't know the right word, like kind of coat it. And I don't know if you can see kind of this, but we applied like an epoxy finish to this wood here. So it really just like seals so we're finding these new techniques that like, even if it is kind of like not as dense, like we're still able to make it work. The biggest thing is consistency. And that's like, been something that we've like had some trial and error runs where what started as red and beautiful like start to turn orange and like ugly real quick. It happens, and we're so we've had to learn that.
Dealt with that.
Have you had something like that? Like you've had like, dude, this is gonna be the sickest thing, and then it just completely butched itself. Like, what the fuck just happened? You had to like go back to the drawing board.
We've had a few collections. It's funny that it came back. Like we had this one watch. It was rosewood. And the rosewood just so ugly. It's like kind of like a gold. And we're like, okay, that's not red. It's like, you know, like bronze. So like we sat on these units for like a year and a half. And we're like, we're never going to release these. Like we need to, and then, you know, this movie
developed.
It was fully developed in our warehouse. So we're like,
oh no,
what are we going to do? And then the movie Iron Man came out. And we were like, we could call this the Iron Man and sell it.
No way, hard. That's fucking sweet.
This is the limited edition, never to be done again. Iron Man. You know,
life gives you lemons.
Dude, we just
make that fucking lemonade.
Yes, sir.
We were stressing for sure. We're like, what are we gonna do with all these watches? You know, and then sure enough, you know, we found the right marketing and told the right story, and that's what sells, you know.
That must have been
that's cool as hell.
Just to sit on that much inventory of something that you think is trash and then have that come up. Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, it was. We just had to, you know, kind of pivot our frame, and we're like, okay, that actually kind of works here. Okay, we like it now, and sold it right away. So
that must have been rewarding as hell though too. Like when you figured it out, like Iron Man, we can get rid of all this shit. we messed it all up, and now it's gone.
Who thought of the idea? You or your brother or somebody in the company, because they deserve a raise.
We were really small at the time, so we were hurting. Like it was my bro and I remember we were in Oceanside. We were living in like a little small apartment, and we were like, really, like we were talking with like a few television shows that were pretty much just gonna get them at cost, and like trying to figure out how we're gonna get on Ellen or something, you know, like something random. And the Iron Man came out, and I don't remember who thought of it, but we were both like, that's it. Like let's get a graphic up. We had like a freelance designer. Like let's get a little Iron Man, even though like for real, it's probably not illegal.
I was just gonna say, did you guys reach out by any means?
We hadn't done much licensing at that point, so that was we were small enough.
You were right in the charcoal area.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up Slang and Watches in Camp Pendleton here in San Diego County, also Oceanside, things like that. Was bringing the business to San Diego because, I mean, you're spending time here, but was that like for a business stance, or was it straight because you loved it here and wanted, if you were going to start it, you wanted to do it here?
It was definitely both, but it was like, wow, the things that once I got out of the Marine Corps, I was like in Oceanside and Encinitas, and I'm starting to see all this like core and action sports and like Invista and all these dudes that are just like really righteous and like have grown a lot of brands that like are really well respected. And it was like, well, if we hang around here for a little while, we'll probably learn a lot. So like, okay, at that point I got out and I stayed in Oceanside. And then my brother moved back from China about 6 months later. And then we roomed up for about a year and a half in Oceanside. And then we were in Cardiff for a little while and just kind of getting the lay of the land. And we were able to learn from so many brands up in San Clemente. There's so many action sports, electric, and a lot of those big brands. Stance is up there. So we'll just kind of lean on the culture here. You know, there's so many surfing dudes and people that you can like influencers and whatnot. You can just like
they're everywhere.
Meet on the spot, or to hit up the OC, like, you know, and just meet them and make it work, you know. So it's been a good business decision for sure to stay here opposed to going back to kind of sleepy Oregon. You know, maybe Portland could be a vibe, but, you know, San Diego's been very good to us. Like I was saying, all the mentorship that we've received, and it's been good.
It's close enough but far enough too to that like LA area to where you don't have to deal with all the LA kind of shit, but you also can make a day and cruise down there and handle business, and you know what I mean? Like, that is a good point as far as it being a hot spot. But as far as your product, you guys carried internationally or just here in the States, or where can people find your product and all that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as international, we sell online, you know, primarily. That's like the bulk of our business. You know, we're selling pretty much directly off originalgrain.com, just direct to consumer shipping. And we have a few retailers out in kind of in the South. It's in a retailer called Belk. And then we're also in Dillard's. And then we've been able to secure some good online partnerships with Macy's and Nordstrom's Rack, things like that. So just starting to hit the retail front, finally starting to develop that. But really just like focusing on our own, you know, in-house development. And
that's the way to go.
Yeah, the retailers always win. You know, they're always going to get
for sure.
Yeah.
But it is good brand awareness. When we launched in Dillard's, we launched in 20 Dillard's stores, like 6 of them in Texas. And then over like within a month, you know, Texas was our best state.
Wow.
And I know there was some brand awareness there. And so, you know, we've been targeting Texas like crazy now because it's just, it kind of goes hand in hand, but it is definitely somewhat pay to play a little bit with that too. So,
yeah. And I'm sure word of mouth helps, man. Like you said, there's so many people here with common interests. And when you see a watch, I'm sure if you like it, a lot of other people in this area will like it. And that's what we've realized too with this whole podcast thing is you can try all you want. I mean, you guys, social media, it's not even close to what we're doing. But again, everything is word of mouth. Is just trying to get yourself out there, meet people, talk to people, network. Yeah, like it's so much easier to tell someone like, oh yeah, we have a podcast. Listen to our podcast if we're in person, rather than put it on our fucking story and hope that someone saw it and then has to go to Spotify to watch. You know what I mean? Whereas like that in person, that internet like interaction, face to face, just being able to like, yo, check this watch out. Like head to Original Grain, and next thing you know, your website's taken off and everything.
Yeah.
Well, it helps when your product is freaking money too.
Hey, what did you say? We're so
no. I'm talking about his deal.
To the podcast.
Yeah, when your product speaks for itself, it's
for sure.
It's easy. It's easy. That's an easy sell. One person.
You don't even have to say anything. Just show up. You know,
exactly.
Like I said when I met you, Andrew, on the phone, my we don't need to say any names. Ex-lady of mine, ex-girlfriend, her brother saw me wearing the watch one time and was like, dude, those are sick. Like, where'd you get it? Blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he used them. And then we went through Volk, and Volk helped us out and went through you guys and all that. And he hooked up his whole groomsmen with the watches. And
right. Yeah, right. The groomsmen gifts.
Yeah. So pretty cool.
Do you guys, Andrew, do you guys do customization or personalization or anything like that to your products?
Yeah, a lot of engravings. We do a ton of engravings, Sweet. Especially with the groomsmen's or just with just, actually it's funny, like 70% of our customers over the last few years have been women. And so they're definitely purchasing for their loved one and whatnot. So we started offering engravings, and that's been a crazy attach rate, like 25% attach rate to all the orders, so that's just, for us, it obviously makes for an amazing experience as a watch that they're going to keep and cherish, but there's also good, additional revenue with that for us. So we've been doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome stuff. Sweet. Well, man, we don't want to keep you much longer, but anyone else have anything else before we let Andrew go?
Enjoy.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, no, it was a great time. It's cool to hear from you and to be able to hear about your journey and see your watches and stuff. So, it's a cool story and how you connect everything and how you connect nature with their watches. And you guys are trying to tell a story through watches, which I've never heard. I've got a couple watches, but like I've never heard the idea of using the product that you make it with to tell a story, which is a really cool idea.
Thank you, brother. No, I appreciate you guys. A lot of fun to tell the story and kind of remember where it all started. And So this is great for me too. So I do appreciate you guys having me on.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, boys.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Is it Beltran or Beltran?
Carlos Beltran. That's my cousin.
Beltran. Oh, yeah, bam. Look it. Is it really?
No. But
I was gonna say you had Danny.
I was like, I know him.
As far as he's always my cousin.
Okay. Oh, best cousin. You guys are boys. You just don't take pictures together. That's it. Like,
I'll be back.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, Andrew Beltran, co-founder of Original Grain. You're the man. Thanks for joining us, dude.
You're awesome. Talk to you guys soon. All right.
Appreciate it, man.
Sir,
take care.
have a good one.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. So we hear the wrap up of the interview there with co-founder of Original Grain, Andrew Beltran, and gosh, just remarkable stuff, especially like I kind of led into the back half of the interview with, is the contributions that they have done giving back. They are always trying to find new ways to, if they're succeeding, they want so many other people to succeed that maybe haven't had the same chances they had or haven't had whatever it might be. They've always found a way to help out and give back, and that really stood out to me. I know you guys had some things too, but just overall, awesome talk with Andrew, and shout out to my friend Andrew Volk for allowing me to meet him and talk as a group here.
Yeah, I mean, I know I said it in the first half, but I love when he explains, like, talking about the watches and where the wood's coming, what it's about, and it's like, I don't know.
Every watch is different.
Every watch is different. The grain's not going to be exactly the same, and it's like he's really making one-off watches. Yep. In all reality, I mean, every piece is different, and I really like that. And
They're pieces of art.
Yeah, they are, and I just enjoy his whole story of being in the military and everything. And it's like, and then like the one watch he makes out of the airplane, I'm just like, dude, like everything he does. And it just seems American too. Like, you know what I mean? Like baseball, military, planes. Yeah. I'm like, man, I want to be with that guy. Like, I want to go hang out with that guy. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed just his stories about where everything came from, and just seemed like such a good, genuine, quality person. And I'm so happy to hear that he's had this success with his brother.
Yeah, and to that success, he talks about what got him and his brother and his company there, and all those long hours that he's talking about, and all that underlying work that goes so unnoticed. A lot of people think that just because you're successful, it all freaking it's
handed.
You put the hard work to get there. Of course, everybody, I feel like, pretty much understands that. But the game's not over. You're working twice as hard, and
you picked up starting another business.
Yeah, right? and that's what I was going to say. And the fact that he's starting another business, like, obviously he wants to do more and continue to be successful, and he's putting the time and effort into it. I thought that was pretty cool to hear him say it, and the quality stands out.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we thank Andrew again. We thank you guys for listening. That's episode 13 now of Connected by Scenes podcast. The trio, once again, delivering just top-notch material here on Connected by Scenes podcast. But check us out, subscribe, follow, rate, review, do everything, please. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube.
And go buy a watch.
We're everywhere. Go buy a watch. Original Grain. My goodness. Check them out, please.
Once our country opens up, go tell a story.
Buy it, post it, let them know how great it is. You won't be disappointed. Original Grain, check them out, the real OG. But that does it for us.